What's up, guys, and welcome to the SaveState, a channel about all the things you love in nerd culture. My name is Landon Barton. I've got Seth Duncan and Ryan Royal here, and so full warning: this is going to be a spoiler cast on Avengers. Spoilers. If you haven't seen Avengers and you want to know our review spoiler-free, click the link below. It'll send you to our spoiler-free review that we shot right after seeing it. Now, we saw it in IMAX 3D. It was glorious and beautiful. Let's break this down. What did you guys think about this in shot for shot? What do you guys think?
Shot for shot? You want a full overall impression first?
Sure. Yeah.
Cool. Loved it. I thought it was a fantastic superhero flick. I was a little scared at first because some of the reviews were coming out saying that it was...
They were really disconcerting.
Yeah, it's convoluted, it's too loud, it's too big.
They set up too much stuff.
It's the Avengers. Have you read the comic books? Have you seen a splash page? I look at the movie as a whole, and I look at some of the big fight scenes, and I look at some of the stuff. It was like I opened up a Jack Kirby graphic novel, and the movie was this big, beautiful splash page of all these superheroes doing what they do best.
Now, to be fair, this movie did set up like 3 or 4 different
that
movies
is true.
All within one.
That is true, but if you've ever read a comic book crossover, then that's
sure.
life.
But that's the thing is where there's, I fully understand people maybe taking issue with it setting up stuff that maybe they don't quite understand.
No, you're true.
Because it's a different medium.
It's very true.
What works in a comic book might not work in a feature film.
True.
Seth, what did you think?
I loved it. I thought it was a fantastic film. In my mind, it was only falling short of the first Avengers movie because the first Avengers movie was the first Avengers movie.
Yeah.
And so you can't see that again for the first time.
Yeah.
In every other respect, honestly, I thought it was great. If I wanted to, and I sat down afterwards and was talking to Ryan, and we came up with a couple of things that we could pick apart, but I mean, really, you can do that with any movie if you want to try hard enough.
Absolutely.
And so
absolutely.
None of it was, I sat next to the most irritating 6-year-old kid that could possibly have been, and would have ruined...
Bang, pow, get him, Hulk!
Yeah, exactly. The entire film. And it would have ruined any other movie, and I still thoroughly enjoyed the movie.
Yeah, I'm certainly in the same boat. I think that I said it in my spoiler-free review, the exact same thing you said, where it's like you just can't capture the luster of the first time seeing all of the superheroes coming together. But this comes as close to doing that as possible.
Right.
In traditional Marvel movie experiences, this ties in humor in a way that cannot be compared to. It's so good how they tie in humor. The number one thing that I loved through this that was not specific story-wise or plot development was that they really emphasized saving civilians.
Yeah, oh man,
this whole
totally.
movie, so if you take this and you compare it to the Man of Steel movie, and it was hey, everybody criticized it for just destruction and death and lack of caring for general humanity. This movie is full of the opposite.
Which is funny. The trailer implied the opposite to me. When you watch the first trailer that they had for it, it showed cities, burning and people screaming and all this stuff. And I was like, well, there's going to be, a lot more civilian deaths in this one in it.
Yeah, the entire third act, Endgame, was based around them getting as many people out of there alive as possible.
Well, even cool. When you're seeing the Hulkbuster versus the Hulk, Iron Man is taking the time in the middle of the fight to save civilians in an elevator.
To scan the building and make sure that it is free of people before he shoved the Hulk.
It's those little things.
And he bought the building. He bought the building before he destroyed it.
Pro-life and economically
sound. It's those little things. That's the stuff that takes it from just all right, here's a superhero movie to something else.
Absolutely.
Something extra. So what were some of your favorite... In the first Avengers movie, some of the standout moments was when the Hulk grabs Loki and just bashes him back and forth, and then when he turns around and says, that's my secret, I'm always angry, and he just bashes that giant...
The Leviathan thing.
Yeah. So what were some of the standout moments in this?
Number one, for me, the best thing that got me the most excited was when Vision just hands Mjolnir over to Thor. Because he handed it, I think Ryan said it this way, he handed it to him like it's his wife handing him his coat before he's going out to work. Hey,
this is yours.
Yeah.
Don't forget this. Yeah. And everyone else, it was set up so well.
Yeah. Well, Whedon is so brilliant with his writing. Yeah. The tropes that Whedon uses, nobody else uses. And if there is a trope that he uses that somebody else does, he does it so much better. And so we've set this up from the beginning. Whoever is worthy of the power of Thor will wield this hammer. And so we got the party scene and everybody trying to grab it. And the look on Hemsworth's face when Captain America budges it.
Yeah.
And he just gets very
his
serious.
initial reaction wasn't nearly as funny as it was when Captain America stops and he turns to him and he goes,
Yeah.
like, that was way funny.
Yeah, totally. I knew you
you
weren't worthy at all. But that whole scene, they're arguing about whether or not the Vision is trustworthy because we just got really screwed by Ultron because Tony was a crazy person, mad scientist Frankenstein creating.
He literally
this
says
AI.
in the movie, we're mad scientists. That's
Yeah,
this is
absolutely.
what we do.
Absolutely, which I want to come back to that here in a second too. But how better could a Vision proven that he was a worthy ally than by lifting the hammer and handing it to Thor?
Well,
so good.
And that's actually an interesting point because you were talking about how Whedon does this, and what he tends to do is he tends to take a 4 or 5 minute tension point of a film and nullify it with something at the end. Completely nullify the entire thing with something that's like funny and short.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
like they've been arguing, and then suddenly it's not a non-issue completely, and everything's fixed. And he just does that all the time.
That is one which I'm sure we'll get to later, but I'm going to talk about it now. That's one thing that I do have a problem with sometimes that Whedon does, and specifically in this movie, how he finishes this movie. I don't know how they're going to lead themselves into the Civil War movie, because I expected this movie to end with, okay, we took down Ultron, we sorted all this stuff out, we're feeling good. But there's still going to be like this feud between Captain America and Iron Man, But they finish this with them being buddy, joking about Mjolnir, saying like, oh well, if the hammer's in an elevator and it goes up, then is the elevator worthy? You know what I mean?
Not worthy.
But I think
So they just nullified all of that, all of that conflict between them. So where does the Civil War go? Because Iron Man at the end of this, he quits again for the third time now. He's quit being Iron Man.
Right.
He's quitting again. How does this lead into Civil War? I really don't know.
I disagree though. I don't think it lifted the tension there with them joking around.
Funny.
I think
I
it
want
was
in there.
funny and it was great. But it's still the tension at the farm between the two of them. I don't think that goes away. I think that's still in there. And
It did not seem to
It
be
didn't
there
feel like that to you?
for
Yeah.
the last hour.
yeah, well, I don't know. I think it's going to be knowing the comic book part of it. I think there's going to be something that's going to trip that. I still don't feel like they trust each other. I feel like they got together to fight Ultron at the end because they had to. Sure.
I don't think there was enough time in this movie to develop that anyway. Honestly, I think there was enough time.
They took the time to develop 4 other movies.
Well, no, I know, but they did do the farm scene where they had the tension building there, and I think that was a good hey, these guys don't see eye to eye all the time.
Yeah.
But then they're gonna fight again, and that's fine, and so I mean you've got the whole movie, and the whole movie isn't gonna be one big giant fight scene, I mean they've got to develop it through that too. So,
But even then, the just the feeling of Tony Stark's character was very different than what we've had when he's around like Pepper Potts. He was very much the ego was running everything.
Yeah.
The choices that he was making. I think the character development in that part of the setup is what's going to lead us better into Civil War rather than them still glaring at each other at the end of the movie.
They
or
certainly
something
made
like that.
little hints to what it's going to be like, especially when Scarlet Witch starts to go into his mind, and she's like, basically his fear is going to be the thing that's going to destroy him. Like she doesn't have to do much. Like it's just his own fear of what's going to happen, and he's just going to let the rest of it go. And that's why he creates Ultron. That's why he is going to eventually go head to head with Cap.
Yeah.
So
Well, speaking of Scarlet Witch, let's go down there. What do we think of Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver?
Scarlet Witch was great. Quicksilver,
Didn't get enough screen time.
No, and I feel like their backstory wasn't nearly as interesting as maybe it could have been. Like I have to.
That their powers were created by the Mind Gem.
Yeah, well, because you can't say mutants in this series.
The enhanced.
They're enhanced. So that's just kind of a little bit of a bummer. I thought Scarlet Witch was interesting. The acting was good on her part. I mean, really, honestly, the acting for Quicksilver, Aaron Taylor Johnson, he was fine actually, and I'm not a huge fan of him, but I thought he did a good job for who he was. So it's not his fault that I don't like that character. You have to make the comparison to Days of Future Past Quicksilver.
Right.
I mean, at least I am. And that one was so much better. He captivated the screen time in a way that this Quicksilver just can't.
Yeah.
And that's my opinion.
I liked them both. I thought they were entertaining. I mean, I felt like they were the weak point, but at the same time, there's a little bit of me that questions how weak it was, really, because every other character in that film has movies of backstory that are sitting in the back of my brain when I'm watching it,
But I cared for the Vision when he was on screen. Like
that's a good point.
He was on there for much less than them.
That's a good point. And I did feel like between the two, Scarlet Witch was stronger as a character.
But we've also known Jarvis for 7 years now or so.
Sure. Well, also, it's Paul Bettany, right?
Yeah, Paul Bettany.
Looks great as the Vision.
Yeah, it looked fantastic.
Man.
That was some incredible costume design.
The combination of
when he gets
practical effects and makeup and CG when he looks at Thor and then grows his cape.
So good.
Fantastic. Perfect justification for it. I love it.
It's so good.
So what about, it's a Joss Whedon movie. Somebody dies.
Yeah.
How do you guys think that went?
Well, they played up Hawkeye.
Totally played up Hawkeye that he was going to die.
Whedon
which
knows
was great.
now. He knows that we make fun of him for that, and he played with us that entire movie.
Well, before we even get to that, I mean, the whole backstory to Hawkeye was... I loved that.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Because Hawkeye is a character that kind of got second fiddle in the last Avengers movie, and a lot of people kind of poke fun at him where, he's just got a bow and arrow, which they literally make fun of in this movie. He's like,
he makes fun of himself with that.
There's like, this is crazy.
There's giant robots running around. And
we're on a city that's
flying. We're flying, and I have a bow and arrow.
This doesn't make any sense. And so like it's great where he can poke fun at himself, but seeing his family, seeing that he's got kids, seeing that he's built this life outside of the Avengers, and he's trying to keep it to himself, it was beautiful. It was smart. That's what I wanted out of Hawkeye, and you just knew from the start that they were going to play it up.
He gonna die.
That Joss Whedon was going to kill him, and it doesn't.
Yep, it doesn't. Nope. And the crazy thing about it is they play that up so hard. I mean, you feel it, you know it's coming, and then when Quicksilver dies, his last phrase is
look straight to the camera.
Looks straight to the camera and says, "You didn't see that coming, did you?"
Yeah.
Which was also tied back to when Hawkeye says that to him when he shoots through the floor and everything like that. But at the same time, it was
it
was Joss talking to us.
Making fun of us. Yeah.
Absolutely. But we don't see a funeral for him. I'm wondering if he's going to come back. It's possible because I think there was a thing where Aaron Taylor Johnson signed a thing to do 2 movies with this character. So it's possible, but it could be the same thing with the Days of Future Past. We can't have 2 Quicksilvers on screen because some other legal mojo, whatever.
Now I know you said there was you had some info on like some deleted scenes or something from this.
Right? Yeah. They they had apparently filmed some scenes with Tom Hiddleston's Loki playing Odin, because at the end of Thor 2, we find out that Odin is not there. It's actually Loki mimicking him, taking his place, which is setting up events for Thor Ragnarok coming up here in the next couple of years. They had apparently filmed those scenes, but for the sake of time, they had to delete them, to cut them. They didn't exactly tie in with the expose that they had for the greater Ultron story arc. But apparently... I don't know how true this is or not, but with the Blu-ray, we should get some kind of a 3-hour Whedon director's cut.
That's awesome.
That should contain not only those scenes, which are supposedly helping set up some more of the Infinity Stone type of things, which for the comic book nerds that are looking at the big picture, that's really cool for us. For the normal moviegoer, it may not be as interesting because it's like here, like you said at the beginning, there's all this extra stuff that's happening that doesn't really pertain to the story at hand, and I want my kind of in the box experience.
It definitely felt like Infinity War is the main movie that they're building towards.
Right, absolutely.
Kind of like how all the old movies all hinted at Avengers leading up to Avengers. Like, the post-credit scenes were all recruiting and things like that.
But see, and I liked that a little bit better though, that it was the post credits are posting, not the entire movie was an advertisement for the movie that's coming in 2 or 3 years. But apparently there were some other scenes with some other character development type stuff, like where Thor goes off to meet the professor and they go find the lake and he has the vision about Ragnarok and the Infinity Stones and things like that. There's apparently some scenes that built up that a little bit more, some more scenes with Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, some backstory, some history with them, because we're just kind of like, ta-da! Here's the twins, and go.
So do we at the very end of this movie? Because we're going to try to wrap up some of this review here.
Sure.
At the very end of this movie, it said the Avengers will return. Do we anticipate seeing Avengers 3 being this new cast that they showed at the end?
You can say that at the end we see Falcon, we see Scarlet Witch, we see the Vision, we see War Machine, Captain America, and Black Widow. Now, throughout history, if you follow the comics, even from the second issue of the Avengers, the original Jack Kirby Avengers, the roster changes immediately. And so the Avengers is a symbol for this greater team of people. Sure. There's always been kind of Marvel's Trinity, Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America as part of that. I don't see why not, honestly, that Infinity War Part 1 will be that group of 7 people or 6 people. doing that, and then we'll see maybe the return of Hulk. Maybe we'll see the return, because we see Hulk we see lonely, sad Hulk flying off in the Quinjet at the very end for the first time. Iron Man's off doing his thing, but Iron Man's also been a part of the Guardians of the Galaxy in the comic books. So who knows?
There's a lot of exchange. So
who knows what's going to happen?
Hopefully it'll work for just to keep the franchise going.
Frankly, I'm excited to see a new roster lineup.
Hopefully,
I think it'd be cool
too. So.
I think it'd be great. I mean, it doesn't have to be the ones that we grew up with in Avengers 1 and Avengers 2. I think some fresh blood would make it a little more interesting.
Any final statements from you on this movie?
Man, I think it was great. I'm super on board with anything Joss Whedon does, it seems like. And so for me, this is just, giving him a lot of money to make a really cool film that came out awesome. I loved it. I mean, I'll be buying at least one copy of it and seeing it at least another time or two.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. This is well worth your money, definitely. I mean, if you've sat through this, you've already seen it, hopefully. Otherwise... There's no real reason for you to see the movie, but it's awesome. I'm going to buy it when it comes out on Blu-ray. I had a lot of fun. It doesn't capture the same luster that the original Avengers movie did, because that's impossible, basically. Right. But this was a great movie. I'm very excited to see what they're going to do in the future. As always, if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and a subscribe. And as always, you can find out more from us. We're on Facebook. We're also on Twitter. Thank you, Seth. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you,
You're welcome, Landon.
And we'll see you guys next time. Asshole.